I don't go to your desk or you don't come to my office with your customer, that TO does not count. And I will give that lead to your counterpart. Believe you me, it will happen. And now they know. And I'm like, you need to call them every few months just to say, hey, how are you? Oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
how's everything? How's the car?
Yeah.
"No, I'm calling to see how you're doing. No big deal, because then they remember. That's when the customer's like, oh my God, Mabel, you know what? I've been meaning to contact the store. XYZ happened. Or you know what? I know someone that needs a car. Or hey, you're part of this auto group. Do you think you could find me a Toyota RAV4? Well, you know what? Yeah, I can definitely find you a Toyota RAV.
All right, everybody. So welcome. A very special guest today on Driven by Intelligence. I've got none other than Mabel Peralta. Now, there's a different way of saying it. I was practicing it before we got on, but I didn't want to mess up. So I'm going to let Mabel say it the right way here in a moment. But let me do an intro about this guest here. I even had to, as you all know, I want to write it down and make sure that I get things correct. But what does it really look like to lead with purpose is what I have here. To walk into a room where your identity speaks before you do, and I've seen this firsthand, and still command respect, results, and real connection, right? And so today's guest, Mabel, manager at Aston Martin Summit, branding powerhouse, if any of you know, you know, mentor, speaker, and bold voice for women of color in the automotive industry and beyond. She's been featured by NBC News alongside Jada Pinkett Smith for her transparency and advocacy around alopecia. And you'll have to correct me on that if I said that wrong. I get a little juicy mouthed, reminding us all that leadership starts on the inside. Mabel has gone from cubicles in corporate America to commanding leadership in one of the most elite automotive spaces, and through it all, she's led with grace, grit, and gratitude, right? So from branding to breaking barriers, today's conversation is going to be about more than just cars now. It's about culture, confidence, and it's about showing up fully. Wig or no wig, baby. I love that. Mabel, I'm honored to have you here. Welcome. But to everybody that knows you, we're so thankful for sharing your time in advance and your energy. But go ahead and correct me, pronounce your last name the right way,
Or
and then tell us a little bit about yourself before we hop into it.
sure. So, everyone knows me as Mabel Peralta. In fact, the correct way of pronouncing my name is Mabel Peralta. Because I'm Hispanic, and sometimes people just butcher my name, so I tell them just say Mabel, and we're good. But no, thank you so much for that intro. I don't even know what to say. You know what? That's the best birthday present so far because
Happy
today's my
birthday. See?
birthday. But no, I every day I wake up, and even on my worst days, I put myself in a position of if today is my worst day, what will tomorrow bring, right? And if I could conquer today, then I could definitely overcome a lot of things. And literally a few minutes ago, I had some things happen in the last week, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting overwhelmed. And I'm like, wait, if this is the worst, and I've been through worse, you know what I mean? And how am I going to lead? How am I going to look at my sales girl who's right now downstairs making her calls? How am I going to lead her with honesty and transparency? Right.
Mm,
I had to check myself. I'm like, nah, I got this. And I tell people, you got to check yourself on an hourly basis,
yeah.
not a daily, but an hourly basis, because everything can change, especially in our industry. 1 hour we're all good and everything's going great. And the next hour, you got
Yeah.
CIT issues, you got CDK issues, you got customers calling you because, like, I don't know, my second key doesn't work, and you're like, oh my God.
Right.
And you got to do it with a good feeling, right? And you
Yeah.
got to do it without any sort of tension and any sort of personal bias, because even though sometimes it's bestowed upon you, you do not reflect it back to the customer.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good, man. I'm sure everybody can feel this now where this is going. Now, when did you get in automotive? I love asking that. We all have a story, but when did you get into automotive and why? Because I don't think I've ever asked you that before.
So I got into automotive. Around 10 years ago, I was
Okay.
buying a car and it was not the best experience. And I came to a Volvo dealership that coincidentally is in the same building where I am now. They moved down the block. And I bought a car cash, and I fell in love with their service. I fell in love with the way they did things. But I also realized that there's got to be an easier way for women to buy cars.
Mhm.
Right. I had the worst buying experience ever. So I left corporate America to, as some will say, downsize or downgrade to work at a dealership. And I started as a marketing manager. And then within a year, I realized I think I want to try selling. And
Mhm.
I did, and I was successful at it. And that was it. That was it from there. I've always wanted the end goal for me was always to be a manager,
Mhm.
and to work my way up, eventually be a GM. And throughout the 10, almost 11 years, I would always hear people say, "You'll be a great manager, but no one stepped up to give me the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I've worked at some stores where I was just hired because of the way I look, or because like I fit a mold, or, you know, um, put in a gilded cage, and never really given the opportunity to fly. So I left the retail world and I went to the dealer, partnership side, aka vendor world. And I
Mhm.
did that for a while, with sales training. And then I got a call to come back, pretty much like a full circle moment. But this time the dealership was owned by a different owner. So my
Mhm.
dealership is owned by Automation. And I said, okay, you know what? I've heard good things. Let me give it a shot. Like, someone's
Yeah.
actually right now going to give me the opportunity to be a manager. And what a ride it's been. I've been here since September, and I've learned many things. And you know, some things I've learned with graciousness and amazement, and some things I've learned, school of hard knocks. But that's
Mhm.
actually the best way to learn is when you fall. So you fall, how quickly can you get up? And do you keep picking at the wounds, or do you just wipe it off and say, I got this, and keep it going? I'm the latter.
Mm. That's good. So, because one question that popped into my mind while you're talking is when, because you're at a premium brand, like this is
Mhm.
really unique. So what is it like stepping in the leadership shoes there? You know what I mean? Because I've never worked at a store at that caliber in terms of that brand internally. I've consulted with some, but being inside is a whole different beast than being on the outside as a vendor talking to somebody about what they should and can do. But what's it like on your day to day as a leader? Like, what does that look like?
It's, it's interesting because I don't, everyone looks at the brand, and yes, the brand is Aston Martin, and it
Mhm.
is white glove service, but I've always done white glove service, whether I sold Volvos or CDJR. I've always
Okay.
treated my customers exactly the same. And here I told my staff I have only two salespeople. We're really tiny. We're one of four standalone Aston Martin stores in the country. There's only three
Wow.
other ones. Right. And I tell them, like, whether they're buying, a $500,000 car or a $10,000 car, everyone gets treated exactly the same, because you never know what life has in store for that person. And they
Mhm.
may come back and buy a more expensive car. They may come back and down. You don't know. And one thing is that I want them to always envision themselves on the other side of that desk. How do you want to be treated? All right. Look at
Oh,
the
that's
car they're buying. How do you want to be treated? Do you want to be ignored? Do you want the follow up to not be good? Do you want someone to ignore you after a year and then only call you when the lease is up? Don't do that. And they know with me, I don't do walk by TOs, something that they were used to. And I tell them, if I don't go to your desk or you don't come to my office with your customer, that TO does not count. And I will give that lead to your counterpart. Believe you me, it will happen. And now they know. And I'm like, you need to call them every few months, just to say, hey, how are you? Oh my God,
mhm.
how's everything? How's the car?
Yeah.
"No, I'm just calling to see how you're doing. No big deal, because then they remember. That's when the customer's like, oh my God, Mabel, you know what? I've been meaning to contact the store. XYZ happened. Or you know what? I know someone that needs a car. Or, hey, you're part
Yeah.
of this auto group. Do you think you could find me a Toyota RAV4? Well, you know what? Yeah, I could definitely find you a Toyota RAV4. So I also tell them not to limit themselves to what we currently have here because we are part of AutoNation. So why not use that? You know what I mean? Why
Absolutely.
why why let a customer walk away because we don't have exactly what they want? Well, let's give them options. And what is it about that car that you want? But if you treat them well and you treat them with like, I really care about what's going on, you may change their mind.
Mm, I mean, that's a whole you touched on something that could have been a whole show on itself about following up and keeping in contact with customers that,
Yeah.
are interested in something that we don't sell, and I think right now in the current state, so as we're recording this, if anybody's watching this, it is, I think today well, it's a birthday, so it's April the 2nd, 2025, but right around this time as we're recording this, there's a lot of media going on around the tariffs. And so we don't actually, we're reading this or we're recording this pre that date. And so what I was telling Mabel before the show, it's got that feel of back of Cash for Clunkers and a mix of 2020 combined. There's this fear of should we raise prices now? Should we lower prices? What should we do with our used cars? Should we appraise more? Should we not buy any cars right now? And what the manufacturers are doing to support. And so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But in the midst of all of that, one of the things that I'm hearing is no matter what, the main thing has to stay the main thing, and it's customer experience, you know, and you said it multiple times, treating people the way that they should be treated. And I want to expand on that just a little bit more. When you talk about like the customers that you all get, are they do they primarily do they walk in, do they call, or do they do online, or is it just an
All of
even mix of everything?
all of the above, all of
Okay.
the above. And you know, I something that the store didn't really do was like ask, what's your preference of following up? You
Hmm.
know, or say, "Hey, I noticed that you sent me an email lead, but I would like to speak with you." Right?
Yeah.
Some and have a human touch to it. Don't use templates. Like actually say, "Listen,
Mm,
I'm better prepared speaking on the phone, so do you mind just giving me at least 5 minutes in the chat?" And you'll be surprised how many people say, "Okay, I get it." Right? Like I'm not good at communicating in email either. Just ask. You know, it doesn't hurt, and yeah, the templates, I'm like, "Don't do that."
uh,
Please make your own, send a video, even if it has typos. I do it now with customers too, like, I'll send the
mhm,
video and I'll say something I'm like, I'm sorry. I did not have
yeah.
coffee today. The Vantage is available. Let me know when myself or my salesperson could get in contact with you, and I would love to show it to you. In the interim, we're gonna send you a video. May not be
Yeah.
the best because we have iPhones, but we're
Yeah.
trying here." And I make it funny,
Ah,
and
I
then
got that.
everyone's like, "Oh my god, yeah, I wanna see this, yeah." And we've even had people come in like, "Oh my god, you're the manager that sent me the follow-up asking me why I ignored you or why I ghosted
Mhm.
you." 'Cause I've done that where I've sent memes like, "I feel like I'm getting ghosted, like, I feel like I'm on a bad date. Did we do something wrong?"
Right? Man, and so that's good. So there's a mix of everything, and I love the fact and I hope, you know, when my son edits this, he's the one that helps me edit this stuff. Man, son, clip that. Like, make sure you get that about the templates because it's one of those things that I feel in 2025, we should not be using templates, especially when you're mixing in AI as well. It's like, we gotta get to some real part at some point. If your store is gonna use some form of intelligence or automations, that enables us as humans to do as Mabel just said, get out that phone, record a video, but at least, you know, come on, it's okay to type. And it bothers me a little bit whenever it's vehicles that are premium, you know, like a luxury experience. I believe deserves a luxury touch, you know. But I feel that any vehicle purchase should have like a human touch to it, but especially six figures and above. And we can't take 30 seconds or a couple minutes to just draft up a nice email to tell them, hey, I'm human, I'm here, and I'd love to assist you. You know, the way that you want to communicate I think that's so great. Now let's talk about video for a little bit because most people that know you and that follow you, like myself,
Mhm.
you built a huge brand using your voice, using your video, and you're very transparent too. So talk to before we go into the automotive side about video because I get geeked up about that. Where did that come from in you? Because I love doing video as well. Like, I think you and I share that passion, that drive, but where did that start for you in terms of your content?
It started when I started selling cars and I realized that Volvo is traditionally uh e- th- it was a different time, right?
Yeah.
It's like 11 years ago, and even at that time, even outside of the Volvo world, not everyone was really doing videos, and Instagram was starting to kind of take off. And there was an account called, and this is actually before I got into automotive. I love fashion. I love vintage fashion. And there was an
Okay.
account called Oscar Girl PR.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, Oscar Girl PR, because she's Oscar, de la Renta, and I love it. So I was like, why not Volvo Girl? Like there's
Mhm.
no one Volvo Girl. So I started using the hashtag. And then I got the hashtag, right? I did all
Ah.
that stuff. And I started posting a lot of the cars at a lot of the car meets, and then, Volvo corporate at the time called me and said, "Hey, do you wanna go to media day for the auto show?" Because back then, the auto show was
Lot
really cool, and that's how it was, and that's how it started. So then when I came into automotive, I'm like, "How can I use that platform to my advantage now that I'm selling these cars?" So I just started just posting content, and it was the Wild West, so I really didn't have any real rules or regulations. And a few times I made mistakes, like posting cars that I shouldn't post. Oops, sorry.
Mhm.
But again, you learn. And
Mhm.
and then I just started seeing like, oh my God, people are responding. And at one point I was doing once a week, I was doing Facebook live posts.
Now you were talking about video, and because I think my question to you was, how did you even get into it? So I'm gonna rephrase this to kinda keep the video conversation going, but I'm gonna pivot it just a tad
Okay.
because and you'll understand this, but in my line of business as a coach, one of the things that I really push for is for people to get insanely uncomfortable and to get their phone out like this and record. But I'm not talking about salespeople. A lot of people that I coach are managers, like, people in your position and higher, and encouraging them to get that phone out and just saying something like, "Hey, this is Duran over at ABC Motors. Understand that you just visited us. Now, if you engage, you might have already met with them, so you're recapping, but you know where I'm going with this. I get a lot of pushback and fear and uncertainty out of leaders who do not want to put their face on this thing, not even for social media. This is just to
Right.
enhance the customer experience. I think social media is a whole nother level. And you already shared how you use that. But talk to us in terms of a leader that's listening to this and they're just super uncomfortable about doing video, but they want to get their team engaged, but they know they
Well,
have to lead that charge.
the
How do
thing is
you?
that you have to practice what you preach. You can't expect your salespeople to do something that you're asking them to. And in many stores, it's attached to their pay plan.
Yeah.
If you yourself don't put yourself in front of the camera. And okay, maybe you have a face for radio, right? I get it. Maybe you feel a certain way that you're not comfortable with yourself. Um, then do a voiceover, but
Yeah.
show your staff that it can be done. And it's okay to fumble. It's okay to have bloopers. That makes it even better because it's not a robot. And then if you have bloopers, it's easier for the customer to be like, oh my God, they're real versus that's gotta be AI.
Like
That's gotta
us?
be AI. That's way too perfect. So if you expect your staff to do videos, then you should be able to you know, get your phone out, grab some and do it yourself. Um, because why not? Then you can't say if you can't do it, you cannot tell yourself, well, you need to do it. Okay, well, what about you? Have you done it?
No,
No.
you're right on. Now let me ask you this. What's the either the coolest or one of the best videos that you've sent to a customer that got some kind of experience or engagement out of it like none other? Can you think of one off the top? Because I know you've had thousands, but any one video in particular or a style of video that really has really helped you?
I broke my phone during a walk around, and I dropped it, and I didn't realize, and it wasn't even a walk around. It was a FaceTime.
Mm.
So it was a live FaceTime with a customer, and I dropped it, and I forgot for that split second that there was a customer on the other, and then I was saying some Spanish, and he's when we got on the phone was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I'm like, I keep it like, I just got this phone and I don't have a case. So when he bought the car, because he bought the car, he gave me 3 cases for my phone, one being like one of those OtterBox things.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was, he realized like, wow, this girl is really trying her best to show me this car. And, I picked it up, I cursed him out, and I still kept going. Even with a broken phone, I still kept showing the car because I was like, I really got to sell this car now. So I'm buying the phone.
Mhm. That's so cool. Well, again, it's that vulnerability, right? That you're sharing.
Right.
It's like you're recording, life happens, and if you let customers be a part of that experience, it's almost like it breaks down that wall, you
It
know?
does.
It's like that there's this wall that's all between us and a customer, and when they see us screw up and own that, most of them are like, "It happens."
Yeah. And
Some people might do.
I've used my alopecia sometimes just to kind of, self-deprecation a little bit where it's like, listen, I'm not losing my hair over this deal, take my wig off.
Mhm.
And the customer's like, just to
No. Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking of I'm laughing thinking of the face that somebody makes.
because it's like the least thing you don't expect that.
Oh my gosh.
You
You know
gotta make it human. They gotta like you. They gotta realize that, yes, we're here for a transactional relationship, but we're also doing the foundation to a better relationship, a referral relationship, a relationship
Mhm.
where when you're your go-to car person, regardless what car brand I sell, I'm still gonna be the person you go to when you have car question.
Man, that's so good. It's again keeping it together and not being so transactional because I'm feeling a lot of that right now. Even with what I just explained is going on, it's like it's moving us into that transactional mindset. And I'm like, no, let's this is the perfect opportunity to double down on experience and being vulnerable with your customers and saying, hey, we're in this with you. You know, we're on the same side. So we don't plan on doing anything crazy. We're here to support you and we'll give you information as we get it and feel free to ask questions.
I
So
mean, even
I
even
love the
us
transparency.
even us right now, like we started this podcast, me in a different room, quiet, and then my phone decided to just spaz. And
Hmm.
you got to pull quick, right? I could have easily said, "Can we start from the top? I don't feel comfortable because this is a different room." No, let's just roll with it, right? You have to be vulnerable and you have to be honest. This industry has a lot of cleanup to do from the past in regards to being transparent with your customers and being honest and just really giving it to them. There's being honest and then there's being a brute. There's a fine line. But you have to just keep it real. Like, just be yourself. Even if yourself at that moment in time is not relatable, you gotta think about the customers. Are they gonna
Yes.
be happy? Are they gonna talk to people about you?
I mean, and it's what they say about us, right? It's not what we say about us, it's what others say, especially from a customer standpoint. So you've talked about in the last few moments, you talked about being real, you talked about being human. And so now I'm going to pivot to this whole artificial intelligence. There's so much going on there in this world of is it here to replace, is it here to advance us? But are you all currently at your store right now, Mabel? Are you using artificial intelligence at any form or capacity within the CRM
Um,
or your dealership?
in the CRM, not so much. We were for a bit, but then, when you use, let's say, something like ChatGPT, you can't just say compose an email to Durant, explaining to him that his gap insurance is only for a year versus the 3 years he thought he was getting. No, I mean, if you write things, you have to say and make it in the tone of blah blah blah, but please keep it human. And
Yes.
remember, he has a thing for the Yankees, so let's make a joke about that. And that's the thing. It's like when you use AI, you have to be really specific on how you use AI. But you
Yeah.
can't lose yourself because then you won't sound like yourself, right?
Yeah.
AI is really good for those trouble situations where you do have the client that is upset. And you want to tell the client, listen, all right, and you
Yeah.
can't. So you write your thoughts and then you say, all right, make it in the tone of, I'm a manager at a high-end store and I got to keep decorum and I want my customer happy, but I want to be stern with them and hit them between the eyes. And you'll be surprised when you're so
Yeah.
descriptive what comes out. But I try to make sure that they don't use it as a like your crutch. Like don't do that.
Yeah.
And
I
myself,
love keep going though. I'll let you finish.
it's like you have myself, you have the GM, like come to us in case you have any sort of hiccups.
Yeah.
But don't just rely on it because it's not going to sound like you, and then your customer's gonna meet you, and you
Mhm.
literally catfish your customer on the lead. Like you're a lead catfish. Like don't do
Hmm.
that.
That's exactly what I was gonna say because I've seen it where and I'm all for technology, innovation,
Yeah.
and advancing, but I've seen it backfire. Even one of my clients that, they didn't even get with me. They're like, "Hey, we got this AI and we're putting it in." And I'm like, "Whoa, we hadn't even got our foundation of communication down internally. You want to turn that thing on?" And it's to
Right.
your point about the catfish, it's we're putting on an experience online where some of these customers, especially where this dealership is, a lot of their customers still come into the store. About 40 to 50% of them are still walking in. So if you're not delivering a lot of these experiences, these people are coming in and seeing who was doing all this communication. And
Right.
if they can't keep that experience going, if their language isn't even the same, the customer's
No,
like,
it's not. You can't sound like you just graduated Harvard, and in person, it's like,
"Yep."
man,
So it's like the main thing will still be at the core, we'll still need to know how to give that white glove treatment, how to talk to a customer, connect with
right,
them. Sales training is still here. I just think it's evolved to where it, like you said, if you're going to use these tools, make sure it's branding in your voice, but then also we have to make sure that that conversation, if somebody's talking to an after hours bot or something like that,
right,
that people are slowing down to read that and acknowledge that and being transparent with customers because I don't think customers mind AI as much as long as it's not done in this way of they're making it look human. And then I've heard sales teams say, "Oh, she doesn't work here. She works somewhere else." I'm like, "Why would you say that? Just tell them like that is a
the same
online
thing. I,
artificial." And they'll be like, "Oh, I mean, it's not that deep, right?"
no, it's not. But yeah, that and then that just falls into the whole why are we continuing false narratives, right? If we say we're
Mhm.
gonna be transparent, then let's just roll or keep it 100 and be transparent in everything. Don't say, oh, she's off today. Well, Susan's AI. Susan's always off. All right. Susan works from home. She works from like stop. Um, but no, here we are small. So using that kind of technology doesn't really benefit us. And like I said, it's catfishing your customer
Mhm.
and it's not a good you lose trust when you do that. And losing trust with the customer, especially with this kind of brand or any brand. Forget that this is at Martin. If you lose trust with your customer, that's it. It's really hard to get that back. You could give them all the discounts, you could do everything, you could upgrade them to a better car, but if they don't trust you, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All the things that you're trying to do to make it up, you already broke that trust. It's literally a relationship.
A
You
hundred,
know,
one thousand
the,
percent.
the leads and all that, that's dating. That's the dating part. Getting the leads. Oh, let me give you a sales menu. You guys are still dating. The marriage contract is when they give the card. And that's when the work starts.
That's
That's
good. I've never
yeah,
had
they
anybody
get
put
home
it
with the
that way.
car and
I'm borrowed.
suddenly yeah, they get home with the car and suddenly they're like, wait a minute, I hear something. It's always I hear a noise in the background.
Mhm.
And you're like, what noise? It's your luggage. No, no, it wasn't there before. Yeah, your luggage wasn't there before. Like, what are we doing here?
Wow. So this one is kind of like an oddball question for you, but and not even automotive related, but have you written a book before? Did you write a book?
But did I write a book? I wanted to write a book.
Okay. 'Cause I had in my notes, it says you wrote, "They see my identity first, but my credentials always finish the sentence." Where did that come from? Interesting on my
Um,
research team.
yeah,
But that still is a great quote, you know? I think it meant to say this is the quote, "They see my identity first, but my credentials always,
so
finish the sentence."
I wrote an op-ed. So I've been writing a lot of like posts,
That's
right?
what it is. Okay.
Yeah. That's what it is. I wrote an op-ed and I noticed it. I noticed it when I was selling. I noticed it when I was with Rockhead and I was, doing the training with them that my credentials always had to walk 10 steps ahead of me. And
Mm.
I always had to prove myself. And even now, right, when I started here, it was, oh, can I speak with the manager? And I'm like, I am she. She is me. I am here. And and the grand scope of things, it's especially so for women, it's a big like, oh my God, right? We always have to
Mhm.
prove ourselves. And this is something I tell a lot of the women I mentor, especially a lot of my sisters at work can, is we have to prove ourselves. That's first and foremost.
Yeah.
But then they look at us, they see this, right? And any given moment, I can have hair, I don't have hair. So I have three strikes. I'm a female, I am a female of color, and I am Latina. So those three things are always on the forefront.
Yeah.
I could eat a GM of like the best store in the world, but the first three things you're gonna notice are those three things. And then let's add the fact that I'm blind as that and I'm alopecia, right? So it's like, oh my God. Um, and the concept, like I have to prove my and I gotta work three times as hard to get like a quarter of recognition. And sometimes you get tired of doing that.
Mhm.
But the way I see it is I cannot stop. I got this far not to just get here. And I had to keep growing because the ladies that were before me
Oh, yeah.
went through a lot worse to get me to where I am. And one day I'm going to hand the baton over, and it's
Mhm.
because I've paved the way for someone, even if it's just one lady or a gentleman, right? At least I can say I did it. And here's the baton, and you got this. But my credentials, and even now, I've had people treat me different. Believe it or not,
Yeah.
I've had people in our industry treat me differently, aka treat me better once they found out I was a manager.
Oh, yeah,
Once,
of course.
right? So out as a
Yep.
saleswoman, oh whatever, you don't know what you're talking about. As a sales training professional, you don't know what you're talking about. Now I'm a manager. Oh my God, the words. Oh my God, they're so right. And I'm like, I've been saying the same thing for 10 years. I haven't changed, right? It's just my title changed, and I look around and I'm like, there are a lot of women in the
Mhm.
high line brands that are managers, right? Finance
Mhm.
managers, sales managers, even GMs. But when I look to see if there's anyone that looks like me, I don't really, I'm like, where is she? Where are you? I want to be, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this crazy brand called Aston Martin. I want to talk about things,
Yeah.
and there's not that many of us. And so I always tell the ladies, we gotta sit together, regardless, whether you're brown, white, whatever. Um, there's not that many of us. And then the high end world, we're really very, very small percentage. So it's
Oh, yeah.
those credentials, I hold on to them for dear life. If I have nothing left in the world, if I become completely bankrupt, financially, morally, all of the above, the only thing I have that I can hold on to is my education,
Yeah.
my reputation, and my credentials. That will get me somewhere. That will get me somewhere.
Oh, if hey, for being 33 or 31, whatever that age is, I know you wanna claim that it's higher. Your journey
Wow.
is still so it's just the beginning because I l just hearing you speak and us having this conversation, you know how when and this is gonna really date myself too, but you know how when we read stuff in, like, history books and we see stuff about these people that were so brave and you're like, man, I can't believe they did that. What was that like? Oh my gosh. And those people, I think at that moment weren't thinking about us reading that 40, 50 years later, right? And that's how I feel when I'm listening to you is that I feel that you're living it, like we're all right here present. And then a decade to 20 years from now, they'll be looking back even at one of these conversations like this one here and be like, whoa, are you serious? That's how it was? Like, I think about my grandkids, like, what they're gonna say, because even
Yeah,
as a
no.
consultant, how many consultants look like myself across the thing, Like, I feel so much of what you're saying, it's just there's another piece that I'm unable to relate to, and that's you being a female, me being a male. There's a whole different ballgame there, and as much as I wanna say women may have like a disadvantage here. Like we could see that. But the real disadvantage is to that dealer or that dealership that doesn't embrace this, that doesn't embrace a woman or a woman of color or anybody of color or anything, but not diversifying their staff is such a
Right.
disadvantage for that store and their customer experience. Because one of the things I'm sure you and I both know, from being at some of the conferences and looking at data, when you look at the buying mix of who's buying a lot of the vehicles, that should kinda tell you the kinda mix of what you should have in your store, and you look at your demographics and whatnot. So when you put all that together and then look at your employees too, like, I've seen it to where there's been a whole staff where there's, like, that one lady who's the salesperson, and then everybody. Imagine what it's like for that one person. She might be strong, fierce, and saying, "Hey, I like it this way." But we all know that from a customer standpoint, when they walk into a showroom and see that, it's just a different. You don't see that in a lot of businesses, and
No,
so
you
I
don't.
am thankful of what you, Wokan, and where the automotive industry is going. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it hasn't advanced, but it is incredible to say that you're still writing the history, I guess is what I'm saying. You're writing so much history, you and so many others. And I'm so proud and inspired by that because
You know,
it takes
I just
courage.
look I just I try to do the best I can every day. I'm not always gonna be the best, and do get reprimanded from time to time because I'm still a new manager. I'm still greenfield.
Right.
And in the managerial aspect, I'm still new to all of this, and
Yeah.
I'm not only the sales manager, I'm also the finance manager. So there's a lot of things I'm juggling at once. And you worry about the mental state of your staff, right?
Hmm.
The selling. And are you okay today? What's going on with you? You're off your mojo. What can we do? What can I help you with? Do you need me to call your customers with you? Right. And you're worried about, you know, deals are being funded, your controllers calling you, the GM
Yeah.
needs, you're running all over. And then you also take care of customers that walk in, right? Something that's been coming up a lot is we have a lot more Hispanic customers coming into the store. So
Wow.
this morning I saw someone and I heard him and I says, I just know, I just know he's a black. I know, I just know he's one of me. And I normally have my little significant flag on because I wear the pin. And I went
Mhm.
outside. And I said, hey, can I ask her a question? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, where are you from? And he's like, well, you mean here or origin? I'm like, origin. And he goes, I'm Dominican. And I was like, ah, you want? And then we started just talking, speaking in Dominicanese, which is very, very fast, right? There's Spanish and Dominicans. And he was like, oh my God, you're Dominican? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, so you're the manager. That's it. But you're the manager.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I never met a Dominican woman that's manager. I'm like, we exist. We're out there. And then he's like, your English is so good. I'm like, it's called code switching. Trust me. If you want to have a good conversation, I could turn the switch on. But right now I'm at work and I'm working prim and proper. So my English has to be a certain way. The same way that my
Mhm.
Spanish has to be a certain way. But believe you me, after 6 p.m., it's a whole different story. He was cracking up and he's like,
Oh,
I'm debating buying a Porsche, but I gotta come back. And I'm like, yes, and tell your friends to come back. Like, we're doing this. When I sign people in Spanish, they're like, you don't know what a relief it is to have someone explain things to us in Spanish, you know? And I'm like, I got you. I understand. My mom, her English is broken. It's
Mhm.
very thick accent. So I always envisioned how would someone treat my mother, right? If she didn't have me and she had to go buy a car. Even I think it was 2 weeks ago, I had a Chinese customer, and I know a few words in Chinese, but not a
Mhm.
lot. And I said what I know. Like he looked at me, he was like, "Oh, you." I'm like, paused, still on Duolingo. I'm on level 2.
Yeah.
And then Google Translate to speak to him while we're doing the transactions. And his Google Translate said, no one, we've been looking for a car and no one has stopped to ask us, like, no one has stopped to do this. They basically were like, here's a contract. This is where you sign. And no one took the time to learn to say things. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's what we're here for. That's what I'm here for, right? I learn
Yeah.
what you learn and vice versa. And that's what I tell my sales staff, especially my sales lady. I'm like, I don't stop learning, right? And I said
You
this to my
can't.
sales guy the other day. You've been selling for 10 years. The difference is, have you been selling the same for 10 years or have you sold that first year and then
Yeah.
every year after, did you evolve? Or did you copy and paste? Because if you copy and paste, we need to do a read. But if you constantly evolve and you constantly push yourself and learn new things, it's open up. There are things that I've heard of years ago that I would never say, I'm like, I would never do that. And now, years
Yeah.
later, I'm like, I'm doing it because mentalities, points of views, everything changes and it evolves and you have to evolve. So I tell that to my staff, like I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly on forums. I'm on Clubhouse every morning. I'm
Yes.
reading everything. I read books not only on automotive, but on anything and everything else. I'm constantly asking questions. I have Google alerts come to my phone every morning on every single brand that is out there. I want to know because guess what? If I'm reading an article about Cadillac, what if today I get a trade on with a Cadillac? Now I'm
Right?
sitting right? Now I know what's going on with that company. I can't just hyper focus on the brand I sell or the brand I love, right? I have to
Mm.
be all encompassing in order to really navigate this thing called automotive.
Oh my gosh. This could go on for about 5 hours right now. Like, this is a master class of what we could get into. So you'll probably be a repeat guest up on here, Mabel. But we
I
before
love that.
we before we finish up, we do have our gauntlet, our intelligence gauntlet. At some point, sponsors, you can this would be a fun little sponsor part for somebody who wants to have this. But intelligence gauntlet, rapid fire. All right, you ready?
Ready.
It's got 5 questions. Number 1, favorite Aston Martin model?
Oh, that is the Vantage. Oh, live
Ah,
cross. Oh, it's DBX 707.
I better see a picture of that. One leadership value you never compromise on.
Sincerity.
Ooh. CRM, AI, or video, which has the most untapped power?
Video.
I knew it. That's right. What's your leadership superpower?
Empathy.
Ooh. And quote or mantra that keeps you steady.
Failure only shows that your desire for something wasn't strong enough.
XC edits play that twice. Oh man. So what's one message, every person can list they can leave with today that heard this message, and then how can people follow you?
They could follow me on LinkedIn. Obviously, Mabel Peralta. I am on Instagram. My Facebook is private, but you could still, if you find me, you could add me. One thing to leave with everyone, I really, I want to really address managers. So the managers that are watching this, whether you're a sales manager, finance manager, GSM, GM, even a dealer principal, why don't you start leading your people and be the
Mhm.
manager which you had when you started this industry? Think about when you started and how hard it was or how easy. And you ask yourself, if I had a manager that was XYZ, where would my life be? Where would my trajectory be, right? And be that manager you wish you had.
Master class. I should have just ended it with you just being right there. Let me put myself back to the left. Well, that was powerful. Mabel, thank you so much for sharing your time, your energy, your wisdom. It's always such a good time. And I look forward to, if anything I can do for you on my end, obviously let me know, but we stay connected. So thank
Yes.
you again. Be well, keep
Thank
living
you.
the legacy that you're living, and we'll talk soon.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
All right, see ya.